Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Say something, Jordan.
Something, Jordan.
All right. Both of them. All right, we're good. And his volume okay? All right, good. Okay, the graphic that I have up, you want to start with that, or you got one of yours you want to do? Like, say we got.
I don't have any graphics yet. The old those old Firefly logos down if you don't mind, if you can. Not
Hey,
that
Donna, come take down his Firefly logos.
that one's okay, but the ones before are like old stuff that is not relevant anymore.
Okay, turn that off.
Yeah, all of those are good.
Well, which
Are
Firefly are
you
we
not going
talking
to
about?
be on screen?
Yeah, I will be.
Okay, yeah, those Fireflies back there, those last two, yeah, that one
That
and the one.
one, that
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
Okay, that one, and that one. Okay, go. What number was that? Go back. Go back. Okay. Okay, we'll get it. Is it gone? Okay, do you want one of yours or Charlie or what?
Do I want as far as a picture?
Yeah, the thumbnail when we start the recording, it's going to be, you know.
That's up to you. I don't care. We're talking about Charlie, so you know.
Well, it's you too. There we go.
I'm in the process of recording the song. I sent my tracks to my producer in Nashville, and they're putting drums and bass and keys and choir on it this week. So
Really?
yeah.
Who's doing it? Some studio?
The same studio that I'm doing my album with in Nashville.
Very cool. We're going to talk about that.
Oh yeah, we can talk about whatever you want.
All right. All right, guys, we'll get started here in a second. We're just getting set.
You took a peaceful man. Mm-hmm.
Talk about that.
Who else is on this episode?
Just me and you.
Oh, okay. Usually you have like three guests.
No, I haven't been doing a regular live show on a network for a while because we're out in the desert and it's just freaking, you know, internet Starlink thing. But I've been doing a lot of shows since Ron Paul's birthday because, damn, you know, stuff be happening. But we took yesterday and today off to get a bunch of stuff done, and then we went ahead and did shows anyway. I only do probably 5 shows a week. I mean, 5 guests a week, you know. God, 44-24 silver? Woohoo! We're in trouble. Okay. Yeah, what video software do you use?
Like OBS. I have a really nice camera though. I have the Elgato um, camera.
Yeah, no, I like your camera. Camera's sweet.
You know, and this is and like I'm using pro audio, hardware like the mic and the preamp, compressor, and then I send it through. I don't know if you know what Focusrite is, but they have a product called Scarlett, and they have different versions of the Scarlett. I have like a 2-channel Scarlett that converts my signal into digital and sends it into the computer.
Well, I may need to get, when we build the studio, you know, I don't want to put a whole bunch into this, but, you know, we're going to redo the studio. It's going to be a thing.
Cool.
Okay. Now what the shit's going on here? Yeah, we don't have to. Wrong one. $30. 'You got a purty mouth, boy.'
My wife thinks so.
All right. One last thing. Can you hear this?
It's time for Declare Your Independence.
Could you hear that?
No.
Oh, you son of a bitch. I mean, we don't have to have, it's just the intro. You have to be quiet for... Well, everybody else can hear it.
Okay.
So we're going to go with this because...
Cool.
Damn. All right. Here we go. Okay, I stopped the recording. You can't hear this, but it's 60 seconds. So I'll do my, unafeared thing, and then you'll know we're in. So it's playing in the, in the recording and the stream. All right, here we go.
It's time for Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock.
Believe me when I say we have a difficult time ahead of us. But if we are to be prepared for it, we must first shed our fear of it. I stand here without fear because I remember that I am here not because of the path that lies before me, but because of the path that lies behind me. I remember that for 100 years we have fought these machines. And after a century of war, I remember that which matters most. We are still here! Tonight, let us make them remember we are not afraid!
Your Independence with me, Ernest Hancock. Oh, special show for you. We're going to get a debut of an album or a song that is inspired by the assassination of Charlie Kirk, which I expected from Jordan Page. Jordan Page can, when he's got a connection. He's plugged in, a conduit with God. And when it happens, inspiration hits, boom, an awesome song comes out. He's done this before. I don't even want to mention, all the people that he's had this kind of inspiration before. And when he called me this weekend or sent me a text, he said, hey, Charlie Kirk inspired me, man. I got something, but woo, we're going to give it to you, and it's going out to be recorded. Tell us about that, Jordan. When you do these and you create in your studio these songs, you can have it get all pimpified. Tell us about that.
Well, that's an interesting way of putting it. So, it's good to see you, buddy. First of all, when I record something here at my studio, I just kind of do my guitar work and my vocals, and I do all the treatment I need to do on that stuff. I send those tracks in a Pro Tools session. Pro Tools is the software. And I send a session to my producer who lives in Nashville. And then he takes it into the recording studio there and brings in other musicians, drummers, keyboard players, singers, and he plays bass. And they record the rest of the tracks. And then he mixes and masters it and sends me back something completely finished. So I just send my vocals and guitars and I get something back that's, commercial, radio ready. So it's a really great process. Now, recently I was in Nashville and I spent a week with these guys, and we recorded 10 songs for my new album. And so that was a different process because I was in studio with them. That was a lot of fun. When I'm here in Washington on the other side of the country, I just send in my tracks and they do the rest.
This relationship that you have with these guys, it's hard. I do a lot of shoulder surfing. When I do graphics or so, when you have the graphic guy there and you go, all right, now borders a little bit more, change the font, outline the copy, move kind of, and you get immediate feedback on that. Mm-hmm. Are you shoulder surfing them as they're doing this, or you just trust them? You guys work together to where you come out with a finished product.
It's a little hybrid of both of those scenarios. Like they're going to be recording the drums and all the other instruments for this song about Charlie this week, and they will start around 8 a.m. They'll probably play and record until 10 and do a bunch of different versions. He'll bounce a rough mix to me, and then around 10 o'clock, and then I'll listen to it, give him immediate feedback, and then they have another like 2 or 3 hours to work on it in a 5-hour session. And so if they're not going in the right direction, I could be like, guys, I think you need to do this on the bridge or the chorus, and then they can do that. But there's also, like, we've established quite a level of trust, with their talents and professionalism, and we do a lot of pre-production where we talk about the vibe of the song and the dynamics, the peaks and valleys. Like, I want it to get big right here, and I want it to completely drop out here, and my producer Jaron really knows what I'm going for and can read my cues really, really well, and knows how to translate,
the reason this is so interesting to me is because when you have something as inspirational that, plugged in conduit from God, if they can feel it, they understand it, they do it as well, they're into it as much, do they get touched? And it was, when you perform live, we're out, hanging, we're at a festival or an event or something, we're often at the same stuff. And it is so amazing what you can do with your system. You have loopings, little recordings, beats, bongo in your drum. I mean your guitar. It was just, I really, be honest, prefer you live. Prefer you acoustic. Prefer Jordan. You get in a whole bunch of the other stuff. Yeah, Jordan's in there somewhere. I really enjoy your performances and your live presentations. And this is, of course, we have your albums and so on. But I'm going, I don't know. Jordan Live's better. And it's just you. So just to let the people know. What you're going to perform for us today is going to be just you, and you use you got a pedal system on, off, turn, and explain what that is.
Sure. Well, I realized many years ago that the technology existed for me to play all the parts of a song live and not have to have a live drummer and a live bassist and live keys. That there are these different voices in the song, different layers in the song, and you can do most of them with the guitar. And so with a
no,
looper,
you can do a guitar, that's for sure.
Well, thanks. But with like a looper, you can record what you're playing live, seal it, and keep it going and going and going. And then you can record more on top of that. You can do multiple layers. And the looper I have now is basically 2 loopers, so I can get 2 completely separate things going and sync them at the same time. So I can kind of hit my guitar and create a drum beat, and then I can play a bass line, and then play the and it all layers, and I call it musical hibachi, like when you're at the restaurant and they're like throwing the shrimp around and the onion volcano. It's like the same thing, because I'm doing it in front of you. I'm not like bringing a pre-recorded track and pressing play and then playing to that. I'm building it in front of you, and that's what's really like fun about it for me. And it's enabled me to tour so much more than having to manage a full band every time, and have those expenses. And
how many suitcases is it? I mean, you got your guitar, and what else? A backpack? I mean, what?
It's like there's like I have a metal case that my pedal board goes in, and then there's my guitar case. So it's really just those two items. If there's a PA system where I'm going, if I have to bring other equipment, that's a whole other story, or I have to rent it. But usually there's a PA system where I'm going, and I just open this up, plug it in, plug into their system, and I'm ready to go in less than 5 minutes.
You're such an easy talent, to work. You have enormous talent. You can rip it oh my God, on the guitar, and you do these layers. The most recent time we saw Jordan was at the Ron Paul's 90th birthday party in Lake Jackson, Texas.
That's right.
And, of course, they got to have Jordan. I mean, you know. So it is just so awesome what you're capable of doing. And let's get to the Charlie Kirk thing. A lot of your songs, you'll talk about the song and how it came about and the inspiration and, you know, what your mental state, condition, where you were, what, you know, a lot of things that hit you. And this is something, the Charlie Kirk thing, we'll talk about. I don't know how much introduction we need for the song, but we do need to talk about what's going on.
Yeah, of course.
And to have this inspiration hit you, and you're such a tool for God. You know, it's like, I know what, I'll tap Jordan on the shoulder, ping, boom, and all the tools come in. But the lyrics, the mood, because I haven't heard it. I have no idea, but I've seen what you've done before. And it just, the family's crying. Everybody wants to hear it. They share it. It goes viral on whatever. It's, you know, because it's Jordan. And that, you see, the first word people would say would be talent. But it seems more than that. It's not just a capability of doing it. It's an expression of something that taps in. And you can't do that without being in it, without understanding, without being personally affected. And I'm just want the story. I'm really interested in hearing how this Charlie Kirk song came to you, the lyrics, the tone, the message.
Sure.
I'm going to be disappointed if I'm not floored and crying. I just say it, you know.
Well, I think this song was a result of some tears. You know, Charlie Kirk meant and means a lot to me and my wife and our kids. I've been following Charlie since he first began Turning Point, since he first started touring colleges. I've been watching his videos and sharing his videos. You know, this guy was just a master of his craft and was, you know, I believe like an autodidact, photographic memory. You know, I think he was touched by God in a way that very few people are. You know, he's recently been compared to a modern St. Paul as an evangelist for the gospel. But something I also recognized about Charlie is that he was a libertarian, even if he didn't realize he was a libertarian. Right.
Big government sucks.
There were things I did not agree with Charlie on, but he would have been cool with that had we met. But there was so much that we did agree on, and I've been sharing videos recently of him just in full libertarian mode, just like God mode libertarian, and just demolishing his opponent's arguments with libertarian philosophy. You know, he would mention, Rothbard and Mises and Hayek and Bastiat.
He read
and
a lot.
I'm like, this guy is such a libertarian. It's outrageous. I think that's where a lot of his philosophy came from. But I am also a Christian, and I preach the gospel myself. And having been an open and outward Christian in this liberty movement for many years, I felt like I was very much in the minority. But I don't care. We're called to create disciples of all nations, and you can't do that by keeping it to yourself. You do it by sharing what you know. And, Charlie did that, really brilliantly and unapologetically, and he did it with speech. He talked to people. And one of the lines, the first line in this song is, "You took a peaceful man who gave a voice to his enemies."
Right.
Who does that? Charlie could have just gone to college campuses and lectured, and that would have been one thing. That's what some people do. But he went there and gave a microphone to his enemies to spout as much of their vitriolic crap as they wanted to. And he would peacefully dismantle their arguments in front of a live audience, and it ends up on the internet for the whole world to see. I mean, he's got just billions and billions of views now, and it's pretty wild the reach that he's had. But that, to me, is indicative of an anointing, of a divine calling. And what he, again, not everything did he say did I completely agree with, but so much I did. And watching him stand up for the Lord, on an international platform was incredibly inspiring to me. And as you said, I've done this before with other people. I've written songs about real people, people that have suffered, who have fought for good things. I think the first one I did like this was for Lavoy Finicum in 2016, the rancher who was killed
Right.
In Oregon. And
Which is awesome.
well, and see, that song, it was called The Ballad of Lavoy Finicum. Like, I tend to write songs now about real people. And then I did the song for Schaefer Cox, who was given 28 years for no discernible crime, and was basically sentenced to die in this prison within a prison. And someone got me his book of poetry and song lyrics, and I wept because I felt like he was me. And I wrote The Persecution of Schaefer Cox. And then and I recently did the song for Ross Ulbricht, Free Ross. And Schaefer and Ross are both out of prison now, and I feel really great about having been a small part of the movement that helped to free them. And now this song is called The Assassination of Charlie Kirk. They can't all be the ballad of, right? It's like, it's more poignant to it's more pointed to the context of what this is about. And I could have called this song Turning Point, or I could have called it Charlie, but I feel like The Assassination of Charlie Kirk it immediately commands the somber context of the event. But it's very much a call to action, and for people to wake up and get involved, get mobilized. The other side is entirely mobilized and well funded, and that that's what's been
why
missing.
they're mobilized.
Yeah, so I think that the tides have turned very much, and that's inspiring to see. I don't want it to go too far into but like there needed to be a balance. There needed to be a correction, and culturally and within
how
the
much of
apparatus
this the message that you have in this song is experience that you've had in the movement and seeing where this is going, documenting it and being so popular and accurate with the sentiment that people enjoy, expected, wanted, needed? How much of that is you? How much of that is just God? How much of that is you're trying to appeal to a market? How much, you see my point? When you did Lavoy Finicum, it was immediate. It was, when this was the in Oregon, the government was trying to take land from people, the Bundy Ranch stuff, and they went up there and they were defending the land, the people with the land, their use of the land. And it's been the same people, the they, them, those that won't leave us alone, that has been, you'll own nothing and here's your happy shot. And this is what was going on, and they were defending against it. He was an Arizona rancher that, they were on their way to meet with the sheriff of the county or something. They were, and they did a kill stop. It was an ambush. They intentionally killed him. You got video of it, and it was amazing. But it wasn't a vengeful thing. It was, he walked the land, and, just a cowboy. That's a beautiful song. And the family listened to it, and anybody came over to mourn with them, they just kept replaying it. And it's over and over and over. And then you did his funeral, and it was just so upbeat. God, I get teared up just thinking about it. It is so accurate in its presentation of someone. It is like a sword in the heart of the devil. This is a weapon, what you have for, God, do I say it? I mean, righteousness, for good. What's evil? Not good. I can tell you that, it's not good. Well, this is not, it's good. So the mood that you were able to bring about was such a devastating blow to the bad guys. If you are able, and I haven't heard it yet, I just have so much confidence in Jordan that, this assassination of Charlie Kirk thing is going to be another. And we are here in Phoenix, so our families, one of my sons and his son going tap too late, 6 a.m. If you weren't here at 3 in the morning, you don't come. And we decided that we would go over to a friend's, and we watched it on television on the couch the entire day. We got there like 9:30. Donna made us breakfast, and then we sat there and watched the whole thing. And it wasn't boring. I mean, it kind of a little heavy on the politics and Trump, but I mean, but it was healing. And when Charlie's wife forgave his assassin, that was so powerful.
Yeah.
Way more than I thought it would be. And the other side, they don't understand love, compassion, empathy, because they don't have it. They're not capable. They can't get what's coming. And if you look up the definition of revival, that's what is going on. And part of that is going to be this song. I guarantee it. How much prep do you want to do for the song before you go in? You want to talk about Charlie's impact? And because I got so many stories. We've been covering them. I just scrolled on the screen a lot of the coverage we've done over the years. We've had, for years and years, that here's this guy giving voice to his enemy. All right, let's debate it. Let's do it. You want to do it? Let's do it. Let's talk about it. And he made it clear when you stop talking is when stuff happens. Well, if you keep talking, they don't like it. Stuff happens. But the power of that right there, and like you say, he has a photographic memory. I mean, everything, any question I ever had about the Bible and relevance of different things and stories and what that, he not only had the scripture, he had the background, the answer, and whatever. Like Bill Maher wants to try and up him. I took religion in college, and I know about. Really? Well, let's duke it, man. Let's do it. So this is very, very powerful, and he had to be silenced. And I'm just looking at, it's like the Pharisees in this Jesus character. They go, man, this guy, he's out there yammering and talking and making us look bad. We got to silence. And those conversations were going on. How do you silence them?
Sure. They
don't have enough imagination or the tools in their Batman utility belt, to do anything. They can't. Right. So they resort to that, and then they just raise they had no idea. They can't comprehend what's coming because of this. And it's not a vengeful story. I mean, that'll come. I mean, sooner or later. But it's a, how would you describe, and what you're going to do is describe it in your song, I am sure. So how much of you is in this, or was it just channeling?
I don't know if I want to use the word channel, but I feel like it was certainly inspired. The chorus, I heard it in my head. I wasn't even holding a guitar. I wasn't even playing music. And I just heard the first two lines of the chorus, and that's where it all began. And what I do is when I know a song is trying to get born, I try to just stop what I'm doing and I pray, and I just ask the Lord to help me to hear it accurately and to represent what He's trying to give me accurately, so as not to put too much of myself into it. There's certainly, my wife said that this song is very reminiscent of 2012 Jordan Page. Which is,
I remember the years.
Yeah, I remember the year. And so, that was kind of funny to me because it's not a kumbaya whole, type of song. And I've done those, you know what I mean? But this one is a little, I think a little more anger, but I think it's righteous anger. The Bible says you can be to be angry but sin not. And you angry, but don't be led into sin through that anger. And I think people have the right to be angry. This is a moment. I compare it to like culturally, like what it was. When Martin Luther King was killed, when John F. Kennedy was killed. These You know, but I mean, John F. Kennedy was killed in front of a live audience, just like Charlie, but not exactly like Charlie. You know, he was, but people, I didn't realize this. People didn't even see the JFK tape until about 10 years after it happened. It wasn't really released to the public to be scrutinized until about 10 years after the fact. We saw this in real time, you know, and it was traumatizing for the country and for many people around the world. And I mentioned that in the song. You know, I don't pull any punches in this song, and I don't think this is the time to pull punches. I think it's the time to call things what they are, you know.
You know, this was the one thing that the first impression because we were watching, I got my oldest daughter, Rhea, and it was a text to the family from her, and she said, Charlie Kirk just got shot, you know. And then she had a link to it that was already posted, you know, the main one with him getting shot in the neck. And you saw him like, oh, he ain't surviving that, you know. But my initial emotion response, reflex action, was not anger, a little bit of sadness, but it was more like resolve. All right, it's on. You know, it was, you know, because I've been saying for the past several months, I'm going, there's something coming. There's somebody's not going to go to the back of the bus. There's somebody, you know, there's something. It's prime. And those want it. The ones that won't leave us alone. They need a trigger, a reset. We need a great reset. Well, I'm going, yeah? Well, what do you got to offer? You know, what are you going to threaten us with? Heaven? I mean, you know, so it was resolve. And I felt, you know, sadness for all around. There really wasn't that much sadness. It wasn't even outrage. It wasn't even like surprise or unexpected. It was a trigger pull. It was a button push. It was a switch flip. It was a dial turn. It was, okay, it's on. What's on? I don't know, but it's on. And you're starting to see it. And those that were mocking him, and it won't matter. He won't go down in history. You know, nobody will remember. They don't understand. And then we find out that all my children and my daughter and son-in-laws, their generation in their 30s, they've been watching his stuff forever. You know, one of my sons, he has a long drive, he commutes, and he goes, yeah, it's country and Charlie Kirk. I mean, that's all he listens to. So I'm just going, this is, I don't think even we can comprehend, but I knew there was going to be a Jordan Page song. It didn't surprise me one itty bitty bit.
There had to be.
I'm like, Monday, we had taken apart computer, we're changing stuff and cables and whatever, and we just couldn't get it to go yesterday. And then later I got it. I said, okay, we can do it now. No, we want to. So we made a big deal on the site and pushed, you know, this show and so on. So it gave us a little bit more time to kind of promote it because we wanted to get, you know, this debut out and this. I just know, without even hearing a lick of it, that it's going to be a powerful tool for us to make use of, and it's going.
Well,
to
I think we've built it up enough. I should probably play
build it up some more. Some more. Well, see, I want to make sure
Ernie.
I make sure that I want to understand, you know, the motivation, where it's come from, your path, how much of you is in it. Because in the previous times, it's been if not a rallying cry, a representation of the support for these individuals that have had an impact on you. And I know Charlie Kirk definitely had an impact on you. So it's important that we do this, and I'm looking forward to it. So whenever you're ready, man, let's do it.
All right. Well, I sent you the lyrics in the chat, in the Zoom chat, if you wanna be able to read it.
Here, hold on. Let me just copy it, and I put this down.
There's two messages. I couldn't get it all in one message, just so you know. Okay. So this is the assassination of Charlie Kirk. I wrote this on September 14th. It's about 4 days after he was murdered. took a peaceful man, gave a voice to his enemies. And you silenced him for the whole wide world to see. And we saw you mock, and we heard you laugh. This is God dividing the wheat from the chaff. He's separating the goats from the lambs. They got hate in their eyes, they got blood on their hands. This is the turning point, this is the shot heard round the world. This is the altar call, stand beside me, great and small. They can't kill us all, this one's for Charlie. You took a righteous man away from his family. You could not understand, like a slave who hates the free. You can't let it be. And you celebrated his blood on the stage in a moment marking the dawn of an age. Can you hear the prayers of the millions who cried in the darkest hour on the day that he died? This is the turning point, this is the shot heard round the world. Oh. This is the altar call, stand beside me, great and small. They can't kill us all, this one's for Charlie. Because a shot to the throat couldn't silence his voice. Because a shot to the throat, the result of a choice. Because a shot to the throat was a symbol to all. After that shot to his throat, will you answer the call? This is the turning point, this is the shot around the world. This is the altar call, stand beside me, great and small. They can't kill us all. This was my turning point, I heard the shot throughout the world. Oh, this is the altar call, stand beside me, great and small. They can't kill us all. Has anybody hit the turning point? This was the shot heard round the world. This is your wake-up call, stand together, one and all. This evil will fall, this one's for Charlie.
Wow. Wow. Congratulations, man. You're hitting it.
Gosh.
You know, this is one thing as you're playing, I'm noticing your shirt. You know, talk about that.
What, my hoodie here? This was a promotional merch I put out for my song "Arm Yourselves," and we had the Revolution logo that you made with love in it. I did a series because the song "Arm Yourselves" the chorus says, arm yourselves with the ghost of a risen sun and lay your armor on. The second chorus says, arm yourselves to the teeth and prepare your eyes for blood. I do believe the passive man won't live to grieve. And then the third chorus was arm yourselves with the truth. And so I had 3 versions of the shirt, and one of them had the Jesus fish for, arm yourselves with the ghost of a risen sun. And I had this one with the AR-15, and I had the third one had a camera, or to arm yourselves with the truth. And so this was one of those 3. Just happened to.
This is you mentioned your 2012 year, and there was a time, and I remember we were at a festival, I think Pork Fest or something, and Jordan was, he'd had enough. He was ready to go hard, and the album then, a lot of his, like Arm Yourself songs, and I could see it. It was, and I'm like, no, we need the peace, Jordan, man. We need this kind of understanding, and arming yourself with the truth spiritually, and arming yourself, be able to, defend your principles and so on, is necessary. But as you get older, are you starting to, understand, agree with me, whatever, that the power of love and compassion and empathy and what Charlie did I don't think he didn't really hate these people. He had compassion for them. He was trying to help. He was trying to save a generation. President Trump, when he gave his presentation at the end of the Charlie Kirk Memorial at Cardinal Stadium here in Phoenix, he was like, I know he wants me to love him, but I hate him. I'll get some. I said, Charlie, I know you're mad at me, but, I do not like these people. And what's the comparison between the two? He's president of the United freaking States of America, and he's mad at you. And he's got the tools of. Charlie Kirk, like you say, he got shot in the throat, and you still didn't silence him, Yeah. And I'm what do you think the comparison is? What's more effective? What's the power?
That's a very interesting question. Well, if you look at Donald Trump, you got to remember he's still a human being. With all of his power and all of his ego and all of the things, he's still a human being. And his enemies have tried. They had the entire apparatus of the state, the entire dominating power and violence of the state to try to destroy him, send him to prison for the rest of his life. Like they shot him. I mean, like, I understand why he would feel the way that he would feel. But I mean, we are called to a higher purpose, and my message has always been love. It's been love since day one. But and Jesus told us to love our enemies. He said, do good to those who use you and despitefully persecute you, and that's a tall order. As Christian men, we are very much backed into a corner in our society, or we have been, and I think we're finally pushing back. I think the church has been very complicit in the downfall of the culture in our society into just complete abject hedonism for the last 20 years, and I think they've finally had enough. Like how much are you going to take before you push back? And I think Charlie's murder was the turning point. I think people are finally like, all right, we're done playing nice. We still love you, but we're not going to put up with this anymore, but like in the song, I don't know if you heard the lyric or not, but I said, we saw you mock and we heard you laugh, and that was widespread. That was all over the place. You couldn't get away from it. And this is God dividing the wheat from the chaff. He's separating the goats from the lambs, because they got hate in their eyes, they got blood on their hands. I'm not mincing words here. I'm using poetry, but I'm not hiding what I'm saying. I mean, like there is a dividing line. This national divorce that we've been talking about for many, many years. It's like, it's very, very clear. Now, what the result will be, I don't know. I know that Charlie stood for love. He stood for Jesus Christ and the gospel, and that is what I am about too. I'm about that. I'm a man of peace. I'm not a pacifist by any means, but I am a man of peace. And
Erica taking over Turning Point, I wouldn't trust anybody else. I mean, who's going to do it, And the pillow talk is, she knows Charlie's intent, the man, the person, the goal, the mission. I worry, for her. I'm sure she has the strength and the faith and the determination and a lot of wisdom as much as a young woman can have like that. But she's going to be, the onslaught's coming. I mean, it's going to be they, them, those wanting to get in the middle of this. And the support that was demonstrated for Trump and his administration and the cabinet and the government there, it was on freaking display. There was no doubt. We are now, according to Trump administration, a Christian nation. This is, the decision has been made. And that was one thing that Charlie Kirk made a big deal out of. And, our libertarian friends and so on would, kind of, it's not as tough as you would think being a Christian libertarian. In fact, I became libertarian because I was Christian. It was, the witness, parable, testimony, persuasion, voluntary. It was not by force or, Caesar's lance in your side kind of make you believe thing. It was, a voluntary decision. You chose wisely. Mm-hmm. But there is a responsibility that you have that is throughout the Bible as to yourself and your family, your God, even your country. And the one thing I didn't know, Charlie Kirk had said in one of his presentations, they were challenging him whether, separation of church and state and so on. He goes, all the states at the founding of the country had a profession of faith to even be a politician. You couldn't, because the idea of creating the Constitution, it was only good for moral people. Correct. It wasn't there to rein in, assume everybody's bad. It wasn't an authoritarian thing. We're going to control, rock, paper, scissors justice system or something. So it was meant for a Bible-believing concept, the idea, but with tolerance for other persuasions, as long as it didn't violate the main principles of property rights. Thou shalt not murder, covet people's stuff, stealing. It's just so fundamental, basic common law kind of, the people, rule one, don't be a dick. I mean, don't violate rule one. And it was made for that kind of people. When you change the culture and the people and you immerse them in this crap, which from my experience has been intentional. It's on purpose. It's planned. And I always want to give this example that sophomore year of high school, they do a chemistry experiment. The teacher has up on the thing some sugar in a beaker, mixes in a solution, I think it was sulfuric acid or something. It starts to smolder, smoke, and within like a second, boom, a 4-foot column of carbon. I went, whoa, that was impressive. And how I equate it is that that's what's being done to them. They know you add a total immersion in television, comic books, cartoons, movies, on your iPad, your phone, your television. You get immersed in and AI bots, in the chat. You get bombarded with crap then you add a little crap, more crap, and then you go to university and you got some professor that was, trained in this, as a liberal whatever, and then you crowd, all of a sudden, boom, the column of black comes out. And that is what has happened. It's intentional. Well, did they trigger that one guy and that one? No, maybe not. There's evidence. We'll find out. Maybe not. But it is a direct result of an intent. And the intention is to stir up enough weak minds, and they get the weakest, weak minds, encourage them, pat them on the back, build them up. Oh, yeah, boy. Oh, I'm a bigger hater than you're a hater. I can hate some more and whatever, and it's a freaking AI bot, And you create this atmosphere to where they think they're going to go down as the Hitler killer, and be famous and the real guys in the background going, they're sitting there laughing their butt off. Yep, that worked again. Get another school shooting. Add some, SSRIs and, force feed chemicals in them. We need a little bit more fluoride so they can't think about, what's going on, and do this and autumn vaccine, the food, and, purple dye number 483 and whatever the hell is going on. It's intentional. It is a plant. It is mixing the compound, and then the result is what the result is going to be. I give you a bunch of examples and programs, but you just know it's happening. And what has always been the counter to this? God.
Yeah.
Love. Compassion. Empathy. With a little sprinkling of righteous indignation of this far and no further. They have been so successful in getting away with even the hijacking of an entire generation that's all blue-faced and conned up, that they thought they could do no wrong. They come out, you'll own nothing, and here's your happy shot. Get over it. We're in charge now.
Yeah.
It's goldmansucks.gov coin. We control everything. It is always throughout history, and this is what, by reading the Bible, you read the Bible straight through, you see the trend. These people that you're seeing, the bad guys being bad and evil and possessed, demons, whatever, that's how they're referred to in the Bible. You'll read it and you'll go, I've seen this politician before. I've seen this ruler before. I've seen I see that was how they were relaying these stories, these experiences. Evil is that which is bad that keeps doing bad when they know it's bad. That's why I say freedom, good government, bad, 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 bad. What do you think I'm saying? This collective doing bad, stealing, taking, preventing, not allowing, forcing, mandating, exempting only, they, them, those friends. That is the definition of evil. And we have tolerated it. Why? Because, like in the Declaration, we suffer these things as long as they're sufferable. But then, I've been feeling this coming.
Yeah.
Is this it?
I think there has been a dramatic shift in the last 10 days, for like 14 days. I think there's been a dramatic shift. And I think it's been a long time coming, and I see some of the more radical left starting to adopt our arguments for
right.
free speech.
That always happens.
And they don't believe in free speech. They only believe in their speech. But they'll use the Constitution when it suits them. And they're not unique to that. A lot of people on the hard right do the same thing. That's why I love being a libertarian. I have the benefit of being right all the time, not just
right.
some of the time.
Principle is just, man, does it violate the life, liberty, and property of a human being? Veto. Yeah. I'm going golfing. I mean, it's not that hard. One thing, I want to mention this that kind of concerned me during all of this when, what was it, Kimmel that got ABC, they took out off his night show. And it started with the FCC chairman coming out going, well, their license, I don't know about that. We're going to use the heavy hand of the government of the speech is wrong. And kind of whoa. I don't need state action. I mean, he can render his opinion, But he's sitting there wielding. I'm going to slap him around with some government on what they're saying. Let them be jerks, man. They're violating Rule 1 all over, man. They're being a dick. I mean, let the free market kind of decide this. But I do see that I need the protection of free speech, not to determine what that is. So that was
correct.
That was.
But
that was.
Hold on a second. But Jimmy Kimmel put his network in legal trouble by lying on the air. There are laws against that, and that is what they're citing.
Enforce them.
I am not for Jimmy Kimmel being taken off the air because he had an opinion. I've been disagreeing with Jimmy Kimmel for many years. I don't need to see him destroyed for that. But when you go on and you knowingly lie and then you double down on that lie and will not recant, you're actually putting he's putting the network in danger of being of sued into oblivion. So and without
that's kind of a tort. That's more than it's like the Trump administration is going to go around and get their enemies. Whoopi Goldberg's on a pike. I mean, that kind of that attitude. I didn't see that as, it just seemed unseemly, and I could see that slippery slope, even though they may be justified and there's a legal aspect to it. It just had a bad vibe. I was much more counting on things like your song. And so I don't want to. I just wanted to notice that this is how it happens. This is how it starts. And I'm just I'm not. I was uncomfortable with that. We'll see how it plays out. And of course, when you got Pam Bondi, then immediately started coming out. We're gonna this and we're gonna. Everybody, whoa, wait a minute. Let's not chill out, man. Yeah. And so I don't want the how comfortable were you with the obvious hip joining of Turning Point and the Trump administration? I mean, Elon Musk is up there in the booth, being all nice with Trump and so on. I was just like, okay, I can see, I'm not super offended. It's good to see that kind of support, but I'm like, we'll see where this goes. What do you think?
Well, Charlie, I think, and Trump and Vance have publicly stated Charlie is largely responsible for their election. Yeah. So, they were already joined at the hip. Charlie has been a staunch supporter of Trump since day one, and has defended him even in times where, I certainly would not have defended Trump in certain situations. And Charlie, always has found a way. Now there are a couple of situations where Charlie was critical of the policies. But he, Turning Point and Trump have been joined at the hip for a long time. That wasn't unusual to me. I was glad to see Elon Musk and Trump at least being civil to one another, because I don't think that was good for anybody.
Yeah.
Their feud, especially Elon kind of going off the rails. But I'm interested in truth. I tell my kids all the time, they're going to use this event or that event to distract you from what they're doing over here. It's always been a magic show. The magician distracts you with his left hand, but the trick is happening in his right hand. And, the nation quickly forgot Irina, the Ukrainian girl on the train, because, Charlie's death has dominated the worldwide news cycle, since then. But this was a very significant event that needs to be addressed. It needs to be stopped. This stuff is widespread. The hatred and the division. They're trying to divide us by as many categories as they can, because as long as we're divided against each other, we're not united against them. And I've always taken that position, and I tell the kids, always look for, why do they want you to believe this? Don't just believe it. Ask yourself, why do they want me to believe this? What are they doing that this is a distraction from? What has happened to the Jeffrey Epstein investigation? What's all of a sudden there's no evidence? There was mountains and mountains of evidence. Now there's no evidence because people are distracted. They're going to milk this as long as they can. And I'm not saying that Charlie's death shouldn't be shouldn't be talked about. I mean, I just wrote a song about him. I was deeply affected by this. This is a national tragedy. I mean, internationally, people have been affected. Tens of millions of people have been affected.
But
by
what
this.
he fought for and spoke for is at least as important.
Correct. You know, but there never let a crisis go to waste is their motto. So they're going to use this to keep distracting the people from what they're doing, and that bothers me. You know, there's a lot of things about it that bother me, but I know that there are things that we're missing. You know, and because everyone's paying attention to this, everyone's focused on this. But this is good, and I'll tell you know, like in one respect, that this Christian revival is happening because largely, like the body of Christ has been laying dormant for a long time. They've not been united. They have not been standing up against evil. They have been allowing evil to run rampant, and that is what allows, you know, when good men do nothing, that's what allows evil to win. And that's what we've been doing as the body of Christ for a very, very long time. And I think that time is over. I think people are ready now to not allow this to continue in our country. I don't want to live in a country that the left wants. They want a complete dystopian Mad Max, you know, hellscape. I don't want that. I don't want that for my kids. I don't want, you know, there to be 50 million people from countries all over the world that want to destroy our way of life. You know, I mean, that's where we were headed. That's where we're going. And you know, I don't want that. I don't want my kids growing up in that kind of nonsense. That's what I've been fighting for this whole time. That I've been out here being a public voice for freedom. You know, I mean, like freedom isn't free. It comes with a cost. You have to fight for it. And, like, people aren't just going to let you have it. They're not just going to give it to you. You have to demand it. You have to take it. And we've just been getting run roughshod, you know, by the various administrations for a very, very long time. I think Trump, you know, represents the things that people like the majority of people in this country, you know, think and want, and maybe that's a good thing, maybe it's not, but they're sick of the other side. Like, the other side is decidedly anti-life. They are a death cult. They are decidedly anti-God. They are anti-Christ. They're anti-family. You know, I mean,
all winners.
People,
I mean, you know, this is you gotta wonder what the hell is going on. You know, this is the kind of solution that I'm looking for. You know, what I'm putting up here is Nexstar and Sinclair stand firm against Jimmy Kimmel return because they're putting him back on tonight. ABC and Disney is going, well, we're putting them back on. But these affiliates, ABC affiliates, a lot of them are owned by, you know, large companies, and they just go, you know, Nexstar on Tuesday said that it would join Sinclair Inc., you know, two different big owners of ABC affiliates, is preempting Jimmy Kimmel Live tonight after ABC parent company, Walt Disney Company, of course, and said Kimmel would return to hosting duties following his temporary suspension for lying about the suspect in Charlie Kirk's assassination, which is saying, yeah, they're trying to hide him being, he's one of them. He's a MAGA guy because he had a gun. I mean, you know, it's just stupid. So this is the solution. You know, it's like, yeah, put them on. We don't care. We're not airing them. You know, that is much more effective than, you know, some, you know, government, whatever the hell. And then some of the things that you miss is like you're going, okay, then another $6 billion for Israel. I'm going, you know, that was one of the things that, you know, if not this or sooner or later would give you a death sentence as you be against giving money to Israel. Man, they don't like that, you know. So that, you know, is a story yet to be told. We have the RFK Jr. and Trump yesterday coming out with, you know what, the autism thing? Pregnant women don't take Tylenol. Acetaminophen has been, you know, linked to autism kind of stuff. Whoa, damn. Oh, the farmer didn't like that one. I mean, you know, this is so, and there's a lot of other stuff coming. And to have Disney, it's Disney, man. They had to go after Disney. It's a generational thing. And I see advertisements, you know, on wherever, you know, you're watching mostly football. If you're not watching football, you never get any traditional commercial brainwashing stuff. But the all these shows on Disney about witches and warlocks and wizards and weird stuff. I'm like, who are these people now? You know, it's and they build up these young girls to be the next Miley Cyrus of Montana, Hannah Montana kind of stuff. Britney Spears, Christina Aguilar. I mean, you know, I've watched this happen. I'm old enough to have seen this generational crap that's going on, and I'm like, what the hell? We are under attack, and it was so obvious that Charlie Kirk knew that by going to the people that were under or not represented at all on these campuses and putting on, this is the one thing that got me, the armor of God. When I heard them say that, I can't remember who did it. Might have been Stephen Miller, it was one of the guys up there, they're going, you know, they mentioned the armor of God, and it just, for some reason, impacted me. You know, it kind of surprised me, and because I know what that means.
Yeah.
And I'm going, wow, the responsibility is now on us. And you know, you got to be careful about being a Christian nation and having religion. And this country was founded on that. You know, that those principles, that standard that we have, and with compassion and tolerance, we've just been way too tolerant. And I'm going, this is the real change. This is what I think those have been afraid of. This is what I think they thought they were stopping. This is what I think, to the point that you go, all right, you can go conspiracy the other way, is that some right-wing whatever, you know, got what they were trying to say. See, they always benefit. We have our heroes, George Floyd. And I'm going, really? That's your A game?
You're gonna put George Floyd up there with Charlie Kirk? Yeah. Sure.
Right. And that was their in the streets thing. And they were thinking they were going to be in the streets and the riots. That doesn't happen, you know, from the conservative, from families and so on. But the George Floyd thing, they pumped him up. And I remember they painted a big wall with his memorial and a picture, and a lightning bolt hit it and destroyed the wall. I'm going, whoa, there's that, you know.
Yeah.
So this is, it's on, and I feel a sense. That's why it wasn't even fear, really. It wasn't, you know, a little sadness. It certainly wasn't anger. It was resolve. It was, all right, this is what we've been preparing for. This is what Occupy the Land's about. This is how we raise our children. This is why Jordan has 15 gazillion kids. You know, this is why we're going to breed them out. And you start to see, when you're drilling down on the fertility stats, is that it's conservatives that are young, white, Christian men having families. They're at the replacement level. You know, they're like 2 point whatever. You know, they're kind of up there. Everybody else is down. So the replacement rate here it's going to be all conservatives in 20 years. And, you know, I'm just, you know, they're not even having children. I don't see success for the bad guys in this without just killing everybody. Which, you know, it's not like they're not trying. So,
well, they've been trying very hard to do that, you know, through a variety of methods, and you know, fertility is a problem. I mean, you know, you have to people have to have more kids. You know, like there's a terrifying documentary called Birth Gap that it's like a 3-part documentary, but the first part's the only part you really need to watch to get the message. Is that there is a population collapse that's imminent. That is really going to change life as we know it. When these older generations go, there's not enough people to sustain the things that we've built, that we have. And you know, people I completely agree with Charlie. You need to get married and have kids and build a life, and not follow, you know, these you know, empty promises of, like you were saying, like, you know, everybody can be Hannah Montana. Like, that's just absolute garbage, you know. I mean, but I think people are returning to tradition and to family values, and they're wanting that. You know, young men are wanting that now. Like but there are a large subsect of young men that are despondent and feel they have no reason to live. They have nothing to live for. They'll never own a home. They'll never have this or that because of like the economy and the way that things are, and they've been they've been browbeat to think that they're just inherently no good by the apparatus. I mean, the day before Charlie Kirk was murdered, Van Jones was on CNN calling him a racist that needs to be silenced, or I don't know if he exactly used those words, but he certainly called him a racist, and it was just stirring people up. And the next day, the man gets murdered. Okay, is don't be surprised if you do X that Y and Z shortly follow thereafter. And
stirring the compounds in the beaker.
Yeah, like exactly. That is the recipe. You repeat a lie enough, people will believe it. That's the old tried and true Nazi technique.
It's
and
baking.
They do this.
It's like it's a recipe, like you say. It's baking. You do this, you add that, you stir this, you put a little bit of that, then you heat it up. You got to put it in the oven, and boom, you get a loaf of whatever. The end result is has a recipe, and I'm feeling this recipe is getting more and more obvious. It's all the stimuli that they can give us, because we have our senses, and they use every single sense to send us down the dark path, which will forever dominate your life. Don't go down the dark side. And Charlie Kirk and a lot of our friends are the light. I can see when you have a young teenager, they go, well, I want to be an influencer. Yeah, put me on YouTube. Give me a channel. I go, yeah? Influence what? What are you trying to influence? You got something to share? Are you Charlie Kirk and so confident? Right. Well, Charlie Kirk, this started when he was a teenager. And I'm like, what kind of confidence does it take? That's why we've been focusing on, Doug Casey wrote a book called The Preparation. It's a 16-part, 3-month each phase. So it's 4 years of, I didn't go to college, but I learned to be a cowboy, to sail, to be an EMT, to be a pilot, to do, and Matt Smith, his co-host on his podcast, has a son, Maxim, that I've known since he was, preteen. And we've interviewed him over the years as he's grown. Now he's 20, and he's going through this book of The Preparation, which is you cannot come out of this, what it takes to be a man without it fundamentally making you competent, confident, and dangerous. That's the subtitle. To make young men competent, confident, and dangerous. And I got that competent thing came from Jay Noon, our friend. And, Jay, I asked him one time, I go, what's the opposite of fear? And he goes, competence. I went, whoa, that kind of, because I'm always saying no fear, no fear, no fear. And they were talking about it or something. And I go, yeah, well, what's the opposite of that? Because I didn't even really know. I'm going, what's the opposite of fear? Not fear? How do you get not fear?
Or you would think maybe courage, right? But competence, that's a very
because it gives you everything else. Because if you know something about something, you get self-confidence. You're braver about. You can express yourself. Competence, being good at being a man. And a lot of people, they're, oh man, well, what about women? Oh, what about women? Jay always goes, yeah, a woman's just a man with a womb man. And I'm going, okay, I'm with you. So his man camp that he does, he has a lot of girls coming to that. So I've seen a lot of good, and you've represented a lot of that in my life, because in my life I'm looking to emphasize the good. The crazy guy on the hill at the rock, kind of just dancing out in the field kind of thing, really doesn't have the same impact until the second guy comes, and the third guy, and the fourth guy becomes a movement. I was always the second guy. I'm going to pimp the first guy out there writing the song. I'm going to pimp the guy out there doing, and promoting the people. That's why I say, pimp my ride.
But you've been much more than that, Ernie. You have been a North Star to a lot of people, myself included. A lot of what I learned early on about the philosophy of liberty and freedom, these concepts, much of that I learned from you. You have been a very influential person in a lot of people's lives, and you have been a huge part of the liberty movement in America for sure. You know, I mean, down to the logo that Ron Paul uses. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
you know, you made that. Like, you're to me, you're a lot more than just the second guy. You know, like a lot of people have like came to all of this from hearing your show or hearing you speak, or you know, I mean, it's seeing you acting. You know, you are the first guy dancing in many situations. So I just want to.
Yeah, but it was, you know, a lot of it was in like even the Lovolution and all that. It was the promotion of what Ron Paul had to say, because I understood I was always about inspiration. That's why we're doing Occupy the Land. You know, you're right. It takes somebody to do it first. Somebody's got to do something. But the best way to promote that is all the other people doing it. You know, I'm going, look, it's a movement. This is going, Occupy the Land. What are you talking about? And I go, when they say you'll own nothing and here's your happy shot, I'm going, I knew exactly what they were talking about. They do not want you self-sustaining. They do not want you creating your own power, your own food, your own water, educating your own kids. They definitely don't want that. So this
Well, they're definitely not going to like me then.
Right. Okay. I want to get this right. Let's see. Jordan, Paige, and Mary have 7 children, right?
7.
7 kids from what age to what age? You're starting to get all. There's not enough gray in your beard, boy.
That's because I.
Are you
it all
coloring
out.
it?
I cut
Are
it
you
out.
coloring?
No, there's some in there. There's some. I cut it. I cut a lot of it out.
Yeah, at least one for each kid.
Yeah, no, we have 5 boys and 2 girls. Ages almost. My oldest is almost 18, and my youngest is 7. And we've been
Pretty
homeschooling
tight,
them.
man.
Yeah, well, we had 7 in about 10 years, so it was a lot. But we've been homeschooling them for 14 years, and we, you know, a few years ago, my wife got her master's in teaching, and we really came face to face with the agenda in the public school system, because we discovered what they were actually teaching teachers to say, and that was truly terrifying. And you know, we were both very convicted in the spirit to do something rather than just accept that this is the way things are and this sucks, but just get through it and keep your head down. You know, we decided to do something about it, and we have started a business that is called Firefly Education Network, and we are launching this platform in hopefully in October. Do our soft launch. Our big, you know, worldwide launch will be in January. And this is an all-in-one homeschooling platform that is designed to help families be successful with homeschooling. And it's a very powerful platform. You know, we're leveraging AI for certain things. We're building community. We're giving parents all the tools and curriculum they could ever, you know, want to be successful, helping people to connect with one another, helping teachers to get out of the public school system and to teach, you know, to keep teaching, but and make a living without having to be, you know, tied up by the red tape of the centralized school systems. And you know, we're very excited about this platform and helping to be part of the movement to withdraw, you know, to no longer be sending our kids off to Caesar so they come home as Romans. Right.
Yeah, I'm looking for. We have a graphic of it. I want to pull it up. I want to look at pretty pictures of you here.
Yeah.
Yeah, Son of Man, that was a good song too.
Speaking
Jordan
of
is all
songs,
AI'd up, man. He's,
oh yeah, I do all kinds of AI stuff.
He's doing a bunch of stuff. He's having some fun.
Well,
and I guess we took those out. Well, we go to.
One of the things I want
website.
to tell you about is, you know, I have another song that's coming out as a single that's going to be on my next album. And it involves the tagline for Firefly, which is "Be the Light." And you know, you were asking me earlier. I'd love to play this for you if you want to hear. I have this song "Be the Light," and you were asking me like about, you know, do I agree with you that love is the answer? And I absolutely do. I don't believe that tolerance of evil is the answer at all. And I'm you know, I've never been on that camp, you know, but I do believe that love is the answer and following in the footsteps of Jesus Christ. So, but I'd love to play this for you if you'd like to hear it.
Yeah, please. Well, this is what I'm doing. It's fireflyedu.org. Is that
Right.
the website?
That
And
is the website.
you know, and there's his beautiful wife. You know, Jordan and Mary Page. You know, 7 kids and she's still hot. You tell her I said so.
Will.
This is, and your kids are awesome. They live in a small town in northwestern Washington State. They got a nice property. Finally, you just, tour and doing all, and they got a property like a little farm there and enough youngins to take care of business. So when he's talking about Firefly and taking AI and using the internet and homeschooling and being an assistance to that and the entire structure, Firefly, Jordan's taking it serious. This is, they're not talking about it, they're doing it. And hell, he had enough kids to experiment on. So this is a thing, just FYI so everybody knows.
Well,
all right.
I saw Ron Paul in Texas recently. When we were in Texas together, you and I, and I got to spend about 20 minutes with him, and I got to tell him all about it. And one of the things that I said to him was that, because he was very, impressed by what we've built, and I said, well, this is the fruit of, for me, this is fruit of the Ron Paul movement. You've inspired millions of people, and one of those people was me, and so much of what I learned from him was, was poured into this project. And so it is very much a continuation of the work that he did, and he's been very, very supportive. So
what's the song that you're about? Prep it.
This song is called "Be the Light," and that is if you go on our website, that's our version of "Just Do It." That's our tagline. The motto for Firefly is "Be the Light." Because Mary said, whatever we build, whatever it is that we end up building, we have to call it Firefly. And I said, why? She said, because we have to teach kids to be lights in the darkness. And I ran with that in a big way. And wrote this song. And this is a song for unity. In a fractured and damaged country that we're living in.
Influenced by Dr. Ron Paul's Christian libertarian action that cured a bunch of people's apathy. It was a continuation. Charlie Kirk was a child during that. There's progression. You can see the lineage of how it builds up into, like what you're doing. There's so much good that comes from good.
Amen. So we have to keep on spreading that message. We have to keep on being who we are, and standing for what's right. Even in the face of, widespread hatred. And there's a lot of it. And this next song is really about bringing people together and putting their hatred aside. To move forward. So
all right,
this is called "Be the Light." If the dam should break and the waters rage before your very eyes, and all around you crumbles in despair, do not fear one another, reconcile with your brother. You will need each other to get through, I swear. Be the change you want to see. It's alright to disagree. In the face of hatred, show your second sight. Make the peace you would embrace. Show your enemy your face. Be a voice, not an echo in the night. And when the last star falls beyond your vision, stand for what is right. Even if you stand alone, be the light. If the world in all its majesty should break before the dawn, and all your dreams are hidden from your eyes, take my hand and together we will build a bridge and never be afraid to start again.
sight. Make the peace you would embrace. Show your enemy your face. Be a voice, not an echo in the night. And when the last star falls beyond your vision, stand for what is right. Even if you stand alone, be the light. And all our lives we're taught to live inside the walls of shame, destined to become who we became. And when the storm clouds circle and we're up against the wall, undivided even when we fall. Be the change you wanna see. Come and show your face to me. If the end is near, then find your second sight. As the wars you once embraced disappear without a trace, be a voice, not an echo in the night. Be the change you want to see, and let it rain on you and me. Replace your hatred with your second sight. Those who make the peace are blessed. This is how you pass the test. Let your voice resound like trumpets in the night. And when the last star falls beyond your vision, stand for what is right. Even if you stand alone, be the light. Even if you stand alone, be the light. Even if you stand alone, be the light.
Power.
There it is.
I'm be the light. I want to, in all of our activism, because I was young when we started this. It was the late 80s. I'm 28. We're pregnant with our fourth child, Sierra, that you know. She's now 35 or something. I mean, so it's been, 35, 40 years we've been doing this. And it was... It's kind of like the Spider-Man thing, with ability, with recognition, with understanding, with knowing, nose of the grindstone, asking questions, getting immersed in the corruption of government through commerce, my father's company, that was whatever. And it just, I don't think people know how bad these guys are. I mean, there's something wrong with them. They're evil. I mean, really, I had just read the Bible straight through because, tired of missionaries banging on my door, and I don't really have an answer. All right, fine. I'll do it myself. I got it, man. Keep your track. I got a couple of Bibles. And going through that, it was a very eye-opening experience. And I could see that it was a battle between good and evil. There were just bad people. And most of them had shiny badges and a gun, you know. I wasn't really so worried about the criminal element back then. I mean, it's getting more now because of their policies and so on, but it's because it's being rewarded. You get bailed out by presidential candidates, so you go burn a building kind of thing. And I was just, if everybody knew or had the perspective that I did, could see this, they would make the choice to be the light. Everybody's, freedom, liberty, community oriented. They, if they just knew. And then I had a lot of people, more experienced, older activists, and they would go, no, Ernie, man, you got way too much optimism, and goodness in you to understand. There are some people that are just bad.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until like the 2016 election cycle, the first Trump election. And this is after we'd gone through the Levolution and all that. And I could see the spontaneous order and the power of the light. And I go, see? You give them an opportunity to express themselves. I knew it was going to happen. We had that Levolution logo in a campaign I had in 2006. And I saw how popular. I go, oh, Ron's right. Because we knew Ron and his philosophy. And they were going to say, well, you're really a libertarian. And you go, yeah, and you're really a communist. So, so I wasn't worried about, he was going to run away from the philosophy. He's going to embrace it and wrap the arms and legs around freedom. And I go, watch this. I had total confidence what was going to happen. But I didn't understand the bad guys. And it wasn't until he started doing the Trump Report where Dr. Frank Tamburri, he goes, don't be a hater, Ernie. I want to come on every week, do Trump Report. And it was before he was like endorsing him. Of course, we knew he would, but his family his father and uncle were in the high-rise building steel construction of high-rises in Philadelphia. So they kind of traveled in the same circles, social circles, whatever, as Trump. And he knew about Trump, read his book, Art of the Deal, all that kind of stuff. So he goes, I don't think people understand, because he was a big fan of his Apprentice show and all that stuff. You're fired. And he goes, I don't think they understand. He's going to win. And I don't think they get it. And everybody's making fun of him and, that kind of stuff. And I go, yep, come on, absolutely, every week. We just had our 10-year anniversary, a month ago. And I go, I can say, you're still voting? Bunch of times. I don't care. I don't see politics as the solution. It's kind of downstream of, commitment, philosophy, beliefs, general public opinion. And in that, he had an experience with, someone in their life that was a sociopath. And he read the book, The Sociopath Next Door. And he started describing the traits of it. And like, Schiff and Pelosi and AOC and Hillary. They even had that kind of buggy eye that was like physical manifestation of Down syndrome. Well, he's going, well, it's the same kind of thing. You tell by looking at them, that they don't have any empathy. That part of the brain kind of clicked off. Oh, it's a drowning puppy. Yeah, well, whatever. I might get my shoes wet. I mean, it's just, it's that kind of thing. And it clicked. All the politicians, all of the bureaucrats, all the prosecutors, all of the, the dozen lawsuits that I had against government and stuff, all the way to the Ninth Circuit, and I've been there, done that. My experiences with the J6 thing and the Department of Justice subpoenaing me to Washington, D.C. for, and I'm just, fifth, I'm not certifying your file, the show I did on January 7th, whatever. Well, we have it, and I don't care. I put it up there so everybody has it. I'm not lazing up a Louisville Slugger for you to wrap barbed wire around it and beat me over the head with it. I'm not helping you. I know you guys are scum. All of that, all of a sudden, made sense. They lacked empathy. They were either born that way, they were manufactured that way, Satan got them. Could it be Satan? Something, the evil that I saw and how I, it's like, well, we can't have the Christ child coming, they'll kill all the babies in Jerusalem, And you're going, wow, who are these people? They're a type. They're birds of a feather. They flock together. They are, they're looking for their front seat in the hell ticket. I mean, these people are bad, evil, bad doing bad, and they know it's bad is evil. And you could see it in these people that I had in the green room, on the campaign trail, in their legislative office, their congressional office, the governor, the guy. I've been an activist for a long time. The Arizona Republic, the editorial board wants to call you in and explain it to you. All right, what couple of issues do you want? And you'll just, quit mucking up our plan. They appeal to your vanity. Ooh, you're so smart. All of this is in the Bible. And that's what armed me. Put on your armor. But you got to have armor. And Jordan's songs represent the aspects, a lot of a compassionate, empathetic population, and lifts them up to feel the confidence of doing something, being a part of their community for good. And the biggest thing is to yourself. Be worthy, be an add to your community, find a mate that's the same and of like mind, and have lots of babies like Jordan.
Amen.
There's lots of babies. He went way past his 2.3 requirement. So this is, and I had 4, so we're adding. We're good. I got 12 grandkids. Woohoo! I win. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is. I'm looking forward to you having a bunch of. How many grandkids you're gonna have? Oh my God. So,
I told each of the kids they owe me at least 5. I want at least 35 grandkids. Yeah.
They have a mission. They got a minimum job requirement.
Yeah. If you have, I don't expect you to have 7, but if you have 5, that you've met the quota.
You're not going to be out of the
babies.
wheel.
I'm like a baby whisperer. I love babies. I never understood how much I would love babies till I had some, because I was never around babies growing up. Nobody I knew ever had a baby around for me to hold. And once we started having our own babies, I realized, oh my gosh, I am just a complete.
All our kids
for little people.
The older ones, when we had, even when they're 3, 4, they were in the birthing room. So that's kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And they just had a cousin, my Rhea, my oldest daughter. She's 40 now. Her husband's sister, they're back in Ohio helping. She just had a baby at home in the bathtub with a midwife, with our 2 grandchildren, their 2 kids, a boy like 10 and the girl's 13, and they were there during the birth. How impactful is that kind of stuff? It's just we have such a tight, loving Christian family that I'm not really worried about. Especially when we got the land out here to make sure they got some place to not worry about it. And this is the turning point, and somebody put up, it's now the tipping point. And I'm not, but I mean, the turning point, tipping point, kind of same concept, but it's definitely turning. I don't know if it's a tip, a fall, uncontrolled, whatever, but it's definitely a turn for us to take advantage of the opportunity we have to make a difference.
Correct.
And it's just so easy. You don't have to even vote. I don't give a crap. Vote, don't vote. That's not the point. It's your opinion. It's where you spend your time. It's where you put your effort. And it should be in your children, your grandchildren, the young kid down the street that needs a mentor. My good friend Bob, he's joined the Civil Air Patrol and goes to the high schools. They have kind of it's like an Air Force ROTC kind of thing. It's they learn to fly and they get involved in aviation and all that kind of stuff. And he got way into it more. I go, man, you spend a lot of time. And he goes, these kids don't have anywhere else to go. They go home and start playing video games or something. They don't have any positive encouragement. There's not, I'm where I need to be to have the impact after his sons have just graduated from school and then, high school and college, and they're in the workforce and doing great, by the way, which I just interviewed his older son yesterday, on his now onward and upward trajectory. And it was based on a lot of the things that you instill, not just in your family, not just in Firefly, in your music. That's why I'm always look to be the second guy at least, And if there's a hole that needs to be filled, I go, well, somebody's got to do it. damn it, you're going to make me do it. Seriously, there's not anybody else doing this? I've got, what the hell, man? But I try to combine that with the Occupy the Land project because I see that as the future. If all of our children and grandchildren were able to build a house. You want to get, know all the trades, build a house. I'll learnify you, okay? So this is, I'm excited for what's coming, the revival. And it's a revival of what, do you think? Before you go, I want to make sure that you're able to express yourself and what motivates you to do this kind of stuff, what you see coming. Put on your clairvoyant, you're plugged in the God hat, man, and tell me, what's coming.
Well, I mean, I always strive to be an ambassador for Christ. God speaks for himself in his word. And, I try to be a person that stands, out in public and, who will I send? Lord, send me. I've always tried to be that kind of a person, to make myself available to the Lord to use for good and to help people and to minister to people and to show compassion and to lead people into a better way of life and into fulfillment in who they are, and I've not always been successful, but I could argue that there's been moments of success, and I'm always striving to be better. There's a revival happening in me. I think the real revolution begins with the individual before it begins with larger society, and I'm very optimistic that the devil has overplayed his hand here, and that people the time of turning is now. The country is very divided, and maybe that needs to happen to a certain degree. The whole wheat from the chaff, goats from the lambs kind of thing. I would seek for everyone to be saved. I would seek for everyone to have compassion and to love one another, and I think that was Jesus's message, but he certainly didn't tolerate evil, but he said, woe unto those who call good evil and evil good. And he also said, do not repay evil for evil. And so we are not called to be like our enemies. We are not called to be like them. We are called to have compassion, but we are not called to hide our light under a bushel and let evil run rampant. There is a balance there. There is a line, and you do not become the monster that you sought to destroy. That's what I don't want to have happen. I think that this revival that's happening isn't about Charlie. Charlie was a catalyst. He was a spark. He was, he was a person who unashamedly stood, internationally for Jesus Christ, and I salute him for that, and I respect him for that. I wept when this man died. It really affected me deeply. It affected my wife, affected my children. But the revival is about the Holy Spirit. It's about Jesus Christ. It's about God the Father, and calling on God, three persons in one God, calling on God, calling him by name, so that he will look upon us with mercy and forgiveness and heal our land. If my people who are called by my name will turn from their wicked ways, I will heal their land. And that is what I am hoping is happening. That's what I want to see happen. That's the change I want to see.
The manifestation of that in politics a lot of times is, I think, in elections. It's downstream, and I've been a big proponent of accurate elections. I do a regular show every other week for years with James Corbett, and
right.
I'm talking about fixing elections kind of thing. I mean, if you're going to have this Democrat Constitutional Republic thing, the Democratic part, the people vote for and do the Republic part. You got the representation bound down by the change of the Constitution part. So this Democratic Constitutional Republic is, it only works if it works, if it's accurate, if it, the representation and the voice of the people has to be accurate, because I have faith in the people. I'm going, people are not voting for that. I don't give a crap what they say. I'm going to go look, and I go, yep, it's corrupt as hell. And it's
Yes.
Maricopa County, woo, top of the list, man. I've been screaming that forever. But the thing is that when I bring that up, I go, we got to have accurate. Go, there you go, Ernie. You're going to lose your anarchist card. I mean, you're for voting and having government. And I'm all right. Well, I'm not necessarily needing any kind of rule. I'm more kind of Russell Brand. He's like, he may want his own little hippie commune and socialist, whatever the hell heaven, but he's not, haven. But he's not going to, want me to be denied, my little jurisdiction in the valley of leave me aloneism with the community of something. So I'm still looking for what would be an ideal governance structure. The Constitution and Bill of Rights, not the worst document, but the Constitution was not really there to defend. It gave good people an opportunity to govern themselves, but it didn't really defend against the bad guys. We need a government here, good, defend us against all these evil people. Well, here, let's have this shiny badge to defend. Well, guess what? The evil guys get the shiny badge. I mean, that's just the way it works. So I'm going, see, you create this, and then this happens. So it's really more fundamental. It's the general public opinion. And from that is where all this other stuff comes from. So I'm been very, if you're going to have any government, you're going to have this jurisdictional border of us versus they, them, those, and we're going to protect the rights of the individuals here and then treat humanity with respect, and due process there. We're going, this is home base for freedom as defined by free will, being a good person, being a good neighbor, biblical principles. Okay, let's do that. How do we do that? It starts with accurate elections. I can tell you that right there. You don't have that. All this other blah, 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 blah. It's total waste of time voting.
Correct.
If it doesn't represent what your vote. So, and this is only now starting to become that's been my big thing since what got me started in the beginning. And I'm going.
There's a solution to that, Ernie, which is blockchain technology. You can have an accurate election with blockchain tabulation. That does exist, and I know for a fact the establishment doesn't want accurate elections. They want to be able to manipulate those.
Oh
elections.
No,
and that is both sides. That is not just the left. That is the right also. I know firsthand.
They're all the same.
I once presented a solution to a high-ranking elected official who, they basically, like, it became clear they didn't want to be able to actually do that. But I think if you expect the consent of the governed, if you expect the governed to consent to being governed, then they need to know that their vote actually counts for the candidate that they chose. Voting is the absolute least you can possibly do to be part of any kind of process or be part of forward movement in your nation. Voting is like the least amount of effort you could possibly exert. And honestly, if voting really mattered, they wouldn't let you do it. They don't let you do things that are a threat to them. That's why they killed Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk, it was actually a threat. That's why they killed John F. Kennedy and Martin Luther King. These people were actually threats to what they, them, those, as you call them, wanted to see happen. They don't let you live. They don't let you do the things that are actually threats to them. So
you know where they, them, those came from? You know what the origination of that was?
Oh, I thought that was just you. You've always
said yeah, but I mean, this is how it happened. I first started doing radio in the Valley here in Terran Radio in 2003. And, of course, a libertarian morning show, in the Valley here, Phoenix area, Scottsdale, in 2003. How the hell did that happen? Well, that's a long story. But what happened was, I'm morning show, they this, they that. Well, of course, immediately you get the audience going, you tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorists, they, who are they?
Yeah.
And I go, that's a good question. Thank you. There are those that just want to be left alone, and there are those that just won't leave them alone. That's who they, them, those are. All the people that will not leave me alone. The whole purpose of government was me to be left alone, to pursue my happenstance, my happiness, my circumstances, to create a better existence for myself. I'm free to use my hands, my liberty, to fashion raw materials and land and whatever that becomes my property, and to defend my life. Life, liberty, property. There's three ways of saying the same thing. And those against that are they, them, those, T3. That's where that came from. It was in response to somebody, you conspiracy nut, who's they? Well, I don't need to know that. All of them won't leave me alone. You get in line. If it's not these guys, there's another group right behind them. So it's us. We are the problem. We are allowing this stuff to happen. The Charlie Kirk instance has galvanized the resistance against this rust of society, this oxidation of just the fringes, unprotected, unknowledgeable, uninformed, not saved, not understanding the role of what it is to be a principled human being. That's why there's so many, to surprise a lot of people, how many Christians there are in the libertarian movement. The libertarian movement, you don't even think of the Libertarian Party. It's the philosophy. You may, I'll vote Libertarian because I know they suck, and the Libertarian guy, it doesn't matter. There's good, better than other kind of stuff. But the Libertarian, freedom-oriented philosophy, who do you think of? Ron Paul. That's the standard by which, I would pick. Because whether I agree with everything that he does, which is pretty much everything, agree with everything that he does, at least I know the sincerity is the espousing of freedom, the principles that he holds dear, because he's Christian. That's what a lot of people don't understand. So I'm looking for, I pulled up the revival, as, the audience just wanted to see the definition: improvement in the condition or strength of something. An instance of something becoming popular, active, or important again. Mm-hmm. Here we go. That's a revival. Then, turning point. I'm going, where is the turning point that they would, pick turning point? The primary and ultimate turning point in the Bible, I go in the Bible, they mentioned that. The crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus Christ, a turning point.
Well,
I can't imagine Kirk not being a turning point.
Yeah, I think we're at a place. We're at a turning point. There have been many, and I would say Jesus's existence period was a turning point in the world. It's to the point where we base our calendar off of it. It was such a monumental, impactful event in the history of humanity. It was God's self-revelation. God revealing himself, what he really thinks, what he really feels about everything. Was singularly personified in this man. Who was God and man. And that is like what I'm trying to, in my life, am trying to emulate and trying to be more like, and building God's kingdom on earth is, I've gotten a lot of flack from my, libertarian anarchist friends over the years, like, about obedience. And I'm like, for me, obedience to God is true freedom. 2 Corinthians 3:17 says, where the Spirit of God is, there is liberty. Where the Spirit of God is, there is liberty. Where the Spirit of God is not, there is not liberty. Look anywhere on earth where the Spirit of God is not there, there's no freedom there. There's no freedom at all. Yeah. The only places where you're really having any semblance of freedom are in Christian nations, which is why they, them, those want to destroy Christian nations and remove Christianity from those nations. That's why all this mass migration from these, third world countries, predominantly Muslim populations, are purposefully flooded into Christian nations. They don't flood into other Muslim nations. They flood into Christian nations to destroy that.
Right. Yeah, it's an invasion. I'm we could go on forever. I'd like to end it on a positive note. And I'd like, and this may not get a positive response, but, I'd like to get your opinion on the impact, the memorial, your song, the results of what's happened will have on the left, on the the left, the progressives, the fringe, the they, them, those. I mean, it's not. It's much larger than that. It's an intent. It's a will of evil. It's a will. There's a will. There's an intent. Well, this group did it, and they did it, and this religion did it, and I'm going, it's like there's a they, them, those that will use all these tools. Their quiver is full of this crap, whatever they intend, which is primarily is just simply control. If you're not in control, you're out of control. So they need you in control. And whatever they got to manufacture to do that for, I don't know, wealth, power, control, I'm not really sure. But what is the impact of this on them? Do you think they expected it? Or they go, yeah, we got to go through that for a while, and then we'll pull another trigger and do another thing, and the AI God that we worship told us to whatever the hell? Or do you think they have no clue the power that's coming? And is it because it seems like humanity always comes out ahead? Humanity just keeps on marching on because existential threat is, people go, all right, dust themselves off, and the resolve of we got to go do some whip ass. You pissed off, Mr. Good Guy, and now you killed that person, that personality that you had before, and you put on the armor of God. That is when I first teared up. When they said the armor of God, put on your armor, I knew what that meant. And for some reason, I didn't think of it. It didn't, hit, and it was said at the memorial. I don't even remember who said it. And that's when the tears came, the first time. And I just go, damn. There's a response at damn. We got a damn. So do you think evil understands it's just another phase? It's just a battle for temporary whatever they get? Where do you think, from their perspective, what's going on? And then, of course, ours.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been watching their reaction quite a bit on X, and they are saying that they saw that as a Nazi rally. They saw that as a Christian nationalist rally where, you have the most powerful people in the government who have control of the button, declaring the gospel, declaring, Jesus Christ is Lord. And that is not a separation of church and state. People in government are allowed to believe in God. The other side of this,
not openly.
the left side is decidedly a very anti-God movement. It's all born out of rebellion against God and against Christian culture. That's where it comes from. Because everything about it, if you examine it, everything about it is the antithesis of Christian culture, deliberately so. And so they're looking at this as an assault on their rights. But, if you ever listen to these people talk, and I've listened to them, thousands of times, in discussions I've had and discussions I've seen Charlie have and many others, they have no, adult arguments. Their arguments do not hold up under scrutiny. They always result to ad hominem attacks and personal insults, and what feels good to me, which is inherently a satanic mindset. And Charlie gave them microphones to reveal that. There has been a great revealing through Charlie's ministry, which is letting them say what who and what they are. Let people talk; they will reveal who they are and what they believe. Let them talk. I think it has made a very discernible. Two-sided thing. Like George Floyd dies from a fentanyl overdose, and they burn their cities down and burn their neighborhoods down and throw bricks through windows and assault people. Like Charlie Kirk dies, and there is national mourning and prayer. There's millions of prayer. Millions of people are going to church, picking up Bibles for the first time, loving their neighbor, coming together and proclaiming the gospel. Like there is, we are not the same culturally. We're not the same. And I look at their side and I just see an ocean of people that could be potential allies. Will they be? That's up to them. I see them as potential allies. I would always want to turn an enemy into a friend. I think Jesus calls us to try to do that. He calls us to reach across the aisle. Charlie did that. He was trying to reach them. He was trying to show them the fallacies in their arguments. And I think he was largely successful with many of them. But with others, it isn't about the quality of the argument. It's about the anger that they feel, the rebellion that they feel towards, most of the time, I think they're families of origin. I think that they were either not treated properly or they were not disciplined enough as children. And they grew up to be these entitled, spoiled brats. And they think that they're just allowed to just throw temper tantrums in society with no.
They were raised by AI bots.
or that. But that's a recent thing, The AI is having an impact, and it's making people dumber, for sure.
Oh, you may think so. Oh, that was recent. What, you think those didn't have access to everything they put? Why do you think the board of directors at Disney, is so evil? I mean, come on. This has been going on a long time. I've raised kids, during the 80s and 90s and so on, even before cell phones, and it was everything they watched. Okay, I'll give you an example. We tried a charter school one year because we pulled them out when my oldest was in third grade. We said, no, we're done with this. I already see where this is going. And they had a thing, it was Scholastic Highlights. It was just some kind of a magazine they would give all the kids. And it went like this. It goes, all right, well, this new fangled internet thing is coming out. Now, you can get a lot of stuff from there. You look up, bears. Yeah, bears, that'd be cool, bears. But don't look up golden bears. Golden bears, that'd be bad. Wink, wink. Don't do golden. I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? You look up golden bears, it was, hairy old gay guys, And I'm like, what the crap that they would even, entice. Of course, say don't do something, kids are going to do it. That they would do. I'm like, this is in all these schools are getting this stuff doing. And we had been separated from it because we had done private and homeschool and all that. But it was a charter school that was, state, a bunch of teachers came over. We're going to do it over here kind of thing. And I could see that it's been going on for a long time. It was intentional, and artificial intelligence was just new tech. Let's see what we can do with this, which belies this. This is my next question. What do you think the numbers of the bad guys there are? They when they're emphasized, it's like when they have any kind of protest or there was a rally for Ron Paul or anything like that, libertarian group, you have these hundreds, thousands of people, and they look for the guy with the Vietnam boonie camo hat. They're going to go up, interview him. Oh, why are you here, Mr. Militia guy? It was intentional. You could see it happening. Well, the numbers that they're trying to portray that we are awash in this liberal identity politics, everybody's gay, what's your pronoun kind of crap.
Yeah.
And I don't believe it. Do you think the numbers that they're trying to portray is accurate? We are really that far gone? Or is it a facade? It's a hologram. It's fake.
It's not fake, but it's definitely inflated. There are far more people that see through this crap than don't. But the problem is that they have put people that they've brainwashed into these mindsets, into positions of power to enact policies, which is one of the reasons we built Firefly, was because there is, like the education system in America is not incentivized to change. It will not change. It will defend itself from having to change because it's a very, very useful tool, right, in order to turn out more generations. I don't think they had enough people so that they've been using the school system to brainwash millions and millions and millions of kids into believing all this garbage. And now there are a lot more than there were. It's still not, I don't think it's 50-50 by any stretch. And I think a lot of those people have come over to the right in recent events and recent years. I don't think it's a hologram. There's a lot of people that believe this garbage. But I also have watched people that were Christians, that were, by all rights and means on the level, get infected with what I call the woke mind virus. I mean, I'm not the only person who calls it that, but that's what I call it. Like, it seems to be like a demonic sickness that infects people's minds one way or another, and they don't have the armor of God on when they're exposed, and it takes root. And the devil will lie. He will twist truth to turn it into a lie over time, and that's what those have been very successful at doing, is twisting truths into lies and pulling people closer to an anti-God and more pro-satanic viewpoint. But
in the Bible, there's all these stories of different events, where the Christ and disciples, or even before that in the Old Testament, different, and they have the people, they were possessed with demons. They'll go and they were saying and doing and proclaiming, blah 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 blah, and you're going, okay, is that a metaphor? I mean, they actually, or was it now? I mean, you look at this and you're going, wow, I can say exactly the same thing, maybe a little bit more modern language, or hell, use their language, and it would apply. You look at these people and you're going, what the? And then when they promote them, some of them are just stupid to promote these people as influencers, and I'm going, why would you pick George Floyd? I mean, come on, Well,
because George Floyd perpetuates this victim mindset that they want to keep people down. They want people to stay in a state of perpetual victimhood, because because if they stay there, they will never ever rise up out of that and become competent, become confident, become productive. And they'll stop being angry. And when you're angry, you're much more easy to control. And you bring up Jesus and the apostles, working with, demon-possessed people. Those people always referred to themselves as they. They, them were the pronouns of the demoniacs who were possessed.
What is that about?
Because they were never possessed by one demon. It was always legion. We are legion. Okay? Like, it was like, you never found a possessed person that was only possessed of one devil or one spirit. It was always many. So there is a very real correlation for many Christians that's what's behind this. My pronouns are X and Y, and my I'm a they, I'm an it. That is a demonic thing. It's a demonic movement to destroy what God created. God created male and female. Male and female created he, them. And so they attack that. When you attack a child in their most delicate formative years, at the center of their identity, whether they are a boy or a girl, you then create the perfect slave and the perfect consumer. Okay? Like that is probably the most evil thing that they have done, is they've attacked the children at the core of their identity, who they are. Because they can never stand on the solid ground of knowing who and what they are. If who and what you are is fluid like water, then you aren't anything. And you can be manipulated to do or believe anything. I think the last 8 or 9 school shootings were all Christian schools, and they were all trans shooters. And the most recent one, in his manifesto or in his notebooks, he has himself standing in front of a mirror, and there's a demon looking back at him. Okay, this is a demonic movement on the left, and you got to pray for these people. You got to pray for them, But if they will not, allow themselves to be delivered from this stuff, there is a line that you do not cross. Now Jesus was and is our example, and he went to try to help these people. Are we Jesus? No. But he said, whatever I can do, you can do if you have faith. I think we need a resurgence of faith. We need a resurgence of the ministry of deliverance. When I see these people, barking, on the street, dressing up like animals and like literally like animals and parading themselves in these pride parades for children and sexualizing children. I'm just like, these people are possessed by demons. That's what this is. That's what that is. You just call it what it is. And they're fine with it. But our tolerance of it is what has allowed it to become so pervasive and so huge. Like culturally, like collectively, our collective tolerance of it. I have never tolerated any of that nonsense. But a lot of people do. A lot of people are scared to be called names. They're scared to be labeled. And, Charlie Kirk was not scared of those things. He said, you can call me whatever you want. But there's no evidence
You
of
cannot
that in my
offend me.
arguments. Yeah, you can't offend me with that. You can call me a racist. Where am I racist? You know how many videos I've seen of black Americans saying, I never heard of Charlie Kirk before because I was always told he was a racist. Well, I just got completely, red-pilled by watching hours and hours of Charlie Kirk's videos. And
find something.
There is no evidence that he is a racist. In fact, he's quite the opposite. He's like, I've just registered as a Republican. Like, oh my God. There are thousands and thousands of those. People are walking away from the left because the lies have revealed, like his death has revealed the lies of the left. And I think that is a good thing. That's a good thing that's happening out of
this. Is one thing that I this is, I gotta be careful how I say this. The life of Charlie Kirk. We haven't got into Charlie Kirk, the movie. I mean, we haven't got to that part yet. Yeah. And I'm starting as a teenager, not going to college, being very smart, reading, knowing, man, this college, no, not doing that. But being a person of faith, walking the walk as he did, taking it to the streets, taking it to the campus, taking it to the devil. What his life demonstrated, I think a lot of people, even on the left, could agree to this. The way he lived his life, the way, as portrayed, I mean, that it's, you never know what will come out, but the way he lived his life, the way he presented himself, the expansion of his evangelism, the targets that he had, the method that he used, the voluntary persuasion, giving the other side, giving the devil a mic. It demonstrates the possibility, the likeliness of a character in human history that at least there would have been a man like Jesus. That is possible. I don't believe in the God and the resurrection of the God, but can you believe that there was a person that went up against the most powerful empire on the planet, the Roman Empire, and the Pharisees and the Sadducees and everybody else that had power and control over the Jewish people, that someone like that could even exist in great opposition with great support of the multitudes, performing miracles, doing all kinds of stuff. I mean, take the miracles out. This is the Jefferson Bible. Thomas Jefferson took all the spirit, the miracles, the wonders, and just what he said. He crafted. There's actually a physical Jefferson Bible that he pasted and got. And this, to say we're not a Christian country, is to not understand the mindset of those that created it, the founding.
And that's by design.
It was definitely on purpose and openly. So this is, the devil succeeds more when he tries to convince everyone he doesn't exist. Well, man, you're seeing it. I mean, damn. So Charlie Kirk's life, at the very least, should give you a real-time example of the possibility of someone living a righteous life,
Correct.
of being this type of influence. Jesus, never couldn't kind of, that was just a story made by, I'm going, I don't know, man. You saw what can be. And there's a lot of other people throughout history that's done, but not in the era of social media. Not with every single freaking syllable you utter, everywhere you went, all the people that you're in contact with, all of the power that you were given, all of the opportunities that you had, and to use it this way. How often does that happen? Very rarely. So when they talk about martyrdom, they talk about, the people being selected as saints, people getting the Nobel Prize for, doing good. I mean, whatever. What better examples can you come up with? This happens rarely. I mean, we got a lot of, good people that we can idolize and, bring up and lift up as examples to our children and next generations. Charlie Kirk was one of those. I'd be very surprised if, the documentary and the songs and the revival around his message doesn't have a profound impact on human history. There are mile markers in human history. There's a before and an after. This is definitely one of those before-after things.
Amen.
What's your opinion?
I'm in complete agreement. I think this is a watershed moment, and I'm glad to be aware of it, know what it is, and I'm glad that I have been following Charlie for a very long time and have absorbed so much of what he stood for, and I'm on the same team.
Yeah, you got that baby thing down.
Yeah, I agreed with him on far more than I ever disagreed with him, and I'm a libertarian. I'm bound to just to disagree with you on principle, just to disagree. But for the most part, I extremely stand on Charlie's side. And again, I wept when he died. His death really affected me, and as like that day, I knew there was going to be a song.
Yeah.
So
I did too. What took you so long, man? It was like almost a week.
Took me four whole days. The night Lavoie died, I wrote that song that night. So this did take a little longer, but it had to be the right song, and I think
people should go and look up the Lavoie Finicum song, by Jordan Page. That was so powerful, and it was along the same lines. Someone that lived his principles.
Yeah,
and
who was gunned down for what he was, because he was actually a threat. Lavoie Finicum was actually helping the Western ranchers to unplug from the Bureau of Land Management system. You had mentioned that they were taking people's land. Well, that was BLM, and so he had a whole plan for Western ranchers to unplug from that system, and that's why he was gunned down. Like the kill stop that they set up for him. He had two choices. He could plow into all those officers, or he could run into the snowbank. And so he chose the snowbank in a split-second decision. He gets out of the car to draw fire away from the women and children in the van that he was driving.
They were shooting.
So he gets out of the van to draw their attention away, and he did not draw his weapon, and they just shot him 9 times, and one shot in the head.
Had his hands up.
Had his hands up. And
wow.
And so like this man is for sure a martyr, and when you look at what people stand for in their own words, that song was part of a documentary series called Dead Man Talkin', which was Lavoie in his own words,
It's very powerful, very, very powerful. And I was,
it's another example. Or do you think it appropriate if you played it? Being that, because it's along the same lines. You think that'd be a good idea?
Yeah.
We'll go out with this, because it was so. Those that know what was going on at the time, but it represents all that's been going on. It's of course there's going to be a Charlie Kirk song, because there was a Lavoie Finicum one. Yeah, go ahead. This was a beautiful song as well, and we got 3 out of Jordan today. Ha ha,
Yes,
we win.
you did.
Ha ha
Give me
ha
just
ha.
a
Ha.
second.
You're going to take a whole 30 seconds to get ready? Can't you pop it out in
give me
5,
a break,
slacker?
Hancock. Okay.
He was a man who loved to walk the land, turn his cheek but also take a stand. And his conviction called, he followed what he felt was right. There's no telling just what time will bring. You can live for nothing or for everything. But when the pushing comes to shoving, tell me, will you fight? Well, here's to all the cowboys who stand for freedom. I'm just talking about a name carved in a stone. Whoa, a friend and brother to anyone. He's riding off to the setting sun. Drive on, cowboys, heading home. Well, there's almost right, then there's nearly wrong. As you live your life from sunrise to dawn, then it's over and the moment's gone. You can testify to the things unseen, but the world is blind, can't see a thing. All you can do is try to be a human being. I'm only talking about a cowboy stand for freedom. I'm just talking about a name carved in a stone. Whoa, a friend and brother to anyone. Well, he's riding off into the setting sun. Drive on, cowboys, heading home. I know not what course other men may take, can't see that far down the road. But as for me and mine, make no mistake, the weight of justice is a heavy load, and I'm living by a code. He left his home to go and take a stand. Well, his voice rang out across a deafened land, and in the end it was a bullet that exposed the lies. A truth remembered is a battle won, though his murder cannot be undone. It rings out like an echo, thundering across the night. Well, here's to all the cowboys who stand for freedom. Why do we watch them from afar with hearts of stone? Whoa, he
battle. Of course, we've been exposed to this kind of tragedy that has been so inspirational for a lot of us still in the battle. That is way more appropriate for today than I thought it would be. There's a lot of great lines in there. And
my favorite is the truth
applies.
remembered is a battle won. When you remember the truth, that is a battle, that you won.
Definitely picked up on that. I don't know how better to end the show than on this conversation with these songs that you've selected for us. Thank you, Jordan.
Thanks for having me on.
I look forward to representation of the Liberty community, your friends, your supporters, your fans, that count on you to be able to represent, and your voice is so clear, and that's why I like the acoustics. I mean, how beautiful was that? I don't need drums, piano, synthesizer, or the bass. I need Jordan. I hear it, I go, nah. I want him live because it's like that, and you can understand what the hell he says. That's the first thing. You can't be a folk singer. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. So this is, so much talent, and it's like, it's not like you got a gift. It's like we got a gift of Jordan, from God. I really feel you're such an asset to humanity to be able to represent in this kind of influence and power, which is why I really, I can go on. But we need to wrap it up because I just want to make sure that we go on a high note and a positive, and you can see the impact of the very people that were impacted by Lavoy Finicum overlap a great deal with Charlie Kirk. We are being hit with these losses over and over, and it's not going to stop. This battle it's won when you remember. When you know general public opinion, the mind, the great lyrics that come from Jordan's songs, I'm just so impressed and glad to call you a good friend. You and your family is such a blessing to everybody, and I'm so glad that you let me know that you had that song to debut. Jordan, thank you very much. Anything you want to end with?
I just love you, Ernie Hancock, and I love Donna, and I love your family, and thanks for having me on. And again, Firefly is part of the mission. Firefly is to help families unplug from the system that's indoctrinating the kids to change the culture. So that's coming out soon. FireflyEDU.org will be opening soon, and we just would love everyone's support for that. I have a movie coming out as well, which is called The Book of Atlas, and it's a libertarian manifesto that's full of Christian symbolism and blockchain symbolism and libertarian symbolism. It's a big commentary on society, but it's fully AI animated, and it's all about but it's branded with Firefly, and it all roads lead to Firefly.
I saw a little bit, like a trailer. He had been working on it, for months. And like last year, I saw you were working. I'm going, holy crap! We can go on and on about Jordan's capability on that.
Wait till you see the finished product. It's really cool.
Well, the thing is that it's another tool in the hands of a creative mind such as yours, which means the Liberty community has another tool. They're going, AI is going to what? It's going to be a tool that the people are going to use, because those don't have the create. All they can do is do a bot to sit there and argue with you, and it's like whatever. These tools always get in the hands of activists, and we know what to do with it. And a lot of times we go old school. Sign everywhere, a sign pointing to the animated movie that Jordan made. So, we always got tools. Jordan, peace, brother. Thank you. This was an awesome show. I'm really glad we got to debut that, and it was a great conversation. And it's been a long time since I've